This is Jim McKenzie, interim minister from First Congregational Church in Port Washington, Wisconsin. We hope you're doing well in the gap time. Those of you who are more and more isolated and at home, we want you to watch Worship in the Gap, an experience we're dedicated to providing for you once a week during this corona crisis. And there's also these little gap chats that we want to have, and it could be on a topic that you just wouldn't guess. And today might be one of those. I wanted to ask you a personal question.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to ask you, when did you know that you wanted to go into ministry?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go into ministry. I went through 3 years of seminary intending to go into pastoral counseling. I wanted to go into secular counseling, but as my undergraduate career was
less than stellar,
and did not make it possible for me to enter into a psych grad program on a secular level. So I thought I'd go. I chose. I looked at two seminaries: United Theological Seminary in the Twin Cities, and Chicago Theological Seminary in Chicago. And I liked the buildings in Chicago.
Yeah.
And so I decided to go there. I spent 3 years taking all of the pastoral counseling oriented courses that I could. Yeah. And it wasn't until the end toward my senior year, a professor that I had a good deal of trust in, I was all set to apply for the D-Min program in pastoral counseling.
That's the Doctor of Ministry degree.
And he said, why don't you take a couple years off, spend a couple years in parish ministry, and it'll look good on your resume. You need a break from school, then come back and get your doctorate. And I took a little church in northwest Iowa, and turned out I just have had such a good time as a parish minister, I never went back.
Did you really?
I did. And I say to people, sometimes people will say, when did God call you into ministry? And I say, God never called me into ministry. God's been calling me out of ministry. Get out of there. Get out of there and get yourself a real job. But I've been having too good a time to leave. And I really, really like parish ministry.
I bet you were very good at it as well. I'm sure
some aspects of it I did well.
Yeah.
So I was really...
So you thought you were going to be a pastoral counselor, which we should explain for people that don't know that term. Pastoral counseling are clergy pastors who have additional degrees and years of residency and are trained to do counseling. So you thought that was going to be your passion. You were surprised to find out that actually being in the local church, parish ministry, is really what lit your fire.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a very good fit for me for a number of reasons in retrospect.
Okay.
I grew up in a fairly religious home.
Did you?
I often joke that, if the lights were on and the doors were unlocked at church, we were there.
You were there. Okay.
I grew up in a multi-generational situation. My grandmother lived in the same town. I knew a number of people of her generation. So I was comfortable with old folks.
Yeah.
I grew up among a family of storytellers, and so I'm used to telling stories and hearing stories, and just the luck of the draw, I've just been blessed with decent intelligence and a good sense of humor, and it just all fit. And and I say this flippantly, but it has a little bit of weight to it that the reason I've stayed in parish ministry for nearly 40 years had to do with church potlucks and getting to do 5 minutes of stand-up once a week. But on a more serious level, it had to do with, first of all, the privilege of the pulpit. It is such a privilege to have people listen with various degree of attentiveness and trust.
Indeed.
I mean, that is really every preacher should approach that position with fear and trembling. And then potlucks are, the community of the church is so sustaining, so helpful, so good, you know.
Well, it sounds like you made the right choice, although as a pastoral counselor, I think you would have been an awesome pastoral counselor. But you got to go with your passion.
Yeah.
Just quickly, when I was going through education, I early on I did, and we can talk about that sometime later. But I got on the fast track to pastoral counseling, and remember.
Where did you go to seminary?
Well, I went to Princeton Seminary in New Jersey. I went to Union Theological Seminary in Virginia. You don't know this. I also went to Eden Seminary.
Oh, yes.
At UCC school. And I did a number of years of clinical residency around the country as well. I wanted to be, and my passion was pastoral counseling. I wanted to do individual marriage and family therapy through the dual lenses of theology and psychology. And so that was my background and training. And that was my passion, Don, and I loved doing that. I came to parish ministry late in life after I had spent a career as a pastoral counselor providing over 60,000 clinical hours. I decided that there was this opportunity to experience parish ministry, and I know about that sense of awe and responsibility in the pulpit, and the involvement in people's lives from cradle to grave.
How do you like parish ministry?
I love it.
Do you miss counseling?
I don't. I've done things in chapters throughout my life, and that's worked out really well for me. I had a great career in pastoral counseling. But that was dealing with people in crisis mostly, and now there is, maybe in later life, there is this sense of a better rhythm, a better pace in life in the parish. And I just enjoy it. I enjoy people. I get great colleagues like you. So some similarity there in our backgrounds. Yeah. It's great that our paths have crossed.
And I always talk about this in terms of parish ministry. One of the things that parish ministers will be missing during this corona crisis is, once a week we get to preach, we get to lead worship and so on. And then we get to go stand by the door.
We do.
Whilst everybody lines up to shake our hand and say something nice to us. Jim's going to miss that.
And lately we've stood at the door and done the elbow bump.
And where does that happen?
I don't know where that happens.
It's just a wonderful gift.
It is.
Usually people have said something nice. Sometimes, once in a while over the years, someone would leave church and say, "Who chose that last hymn?" Or, "What did you think?" I remember I had, when I was early in my ministry and I knew everything, I preached this really depressing sermon on the silence of God.
Yeah.
Oh, Oh, it was great Kierkegaard. It was
was
bad Jesus.
Okay.
And I remember Rex Rogers, who was younger than I am now at the time, but one of the elders of the congregation, one of the leaders of the congregation, walking out and shaking my hand and just looking at me and saying, "You've got a lot to learn."
Oh, ouch. Ouch.
He was so right.
Yeah, well, he could have kept that rightness to himself. Well, here's the thing, folks. We hope that in this time of Corona crisis that you will find these deep and meaningful relationships, friendships. I know you're separated out from your church community, but there's other ways to reach out, and I hope you're doing that. I hope you're in contact on the telephone, writing notes and letters to each other, FaceTiming, Zooming. I had a Zoom meeting yesterday. All kinds of ways to stay in touch. It's not the same thing, and that's what we're learning. We're learning about what's really important to us, and not surprisingly, we're finding out how important these relationships with one another are to our mental health and our spiritual well-being. So we leave you with our blessing. May you find these kinds of meaningful relationships everywhere you turn. And in this time, in the gap, we trust that you know we're still here for you, and we can't wait till we all come home. May God bless you. And may God bless First Congregational Church of Port Washington.